Okay, so let's get right into it. In a pretty sudden move that definitely caught a lot of people off guard, former President Donald Trump announced a wind-down of military action against Iran. He basically declared the conflict over. In this explainer, we're going to break down that declaration, the claims of victory, and, the potential political strategy behind it all.
And it all kicked off with this post on Truth Social. A single sentence, but wow, what a signal. This was the first sign of a potential end to a really high-stakes military standoff, and the claim was simple. Mission accomplished, time to come home.
Right. And that, of course, brings up two huge questions we need to explore. First, how exactly was this victory achieved so quickly and so decisively? And second, what's really going on with the timing of this announcement? So first, let's tackle the how. The whole justification for winding things down hinges on a series of claims about achieving, complete and total military victory.
Now listen to this quote. The scale of the victory being described here is just staggering. This isn't about a partial success. It paints a picture of the complete and utter annihilation of Iran's entire naval force.
And to put a number on it, the source gives us this figure, 58. 58 Iranian ships supposedly sunk in just 2 days. I mean, that's a jaw-dropping statistic meant to really underscore the overwhelming power that was used.
And it wasn't just the Navy, not by a long shot. The victory declaration was a whole laundry list of accomplishments. The claim is that Iran's missile capacity was degraded, their defense industry was wiped out, and both their Navy and Air Force were essentially eliminated. It also says leaders at every level were killed, framing this as a complete dismantling of Iran's military. And get this, the logic was you don't need a ceasefire when you're, and this is their word, obliterating the other side.
So, okay, those are the military claims. But now let's pivot to the political side of things. Because beyond the battlefield, the source material strongly suggests there are some powerful reasons back home for declaring mission accomplished right at this moment. So why now? I mean, timing is everything in politics, right? Especially with midterm elections looming. The source we're looking at points directly to some serious political pressures, both internal and external.
And this lays out the two competing narratives perfectly. On one hand, you have the official line. It was a clean military victory. Job done. But then, the source suggests other factors are at play. Things like the pain of rising gas prices, the need to pivot the national conversation back to the economy for the midterms, and maybe even some friction happening inside the administration itself.
This chart really visualizes those pressures. You've got a volatile stock market and soaring gas prices creating a political environment where a long-term conflict just becomes harder and harder to sell. And, in a midterm year, the focus always snaps back to the economy here at home.
All right, so we've covered the what and the why. Now let's dig into how people reacted to all this and, more importantly, what this new strategy for the region is supposed to look like going forward.
But with any big geopolitical announcement like this, you have to wonder, is this really the whole story? As you can probably guess, there are other perspectives out there, and our source points to an insider view that adds a whole other layer to this.
And that view comes from Representative Anna Paulina Luna. She went on TV and claimed she had a direct line to the White House, basically saying her insights were coming from inside conversations.
So according to the source, Representative Luna was adamant that her private talks confirmed a ground war was never going to happen, a point she felt really strongly about, mentioning her and her husband's military service. She also claimed the initial strikes were a response to a pre-existing threat they called the Nazir Plan, although the source didn't really get into the details of what that was.
So, just to quickly recap how this all went down, the big announcement drops on social media. Then it's followed by a public appearance at the White House with Senator Rubio, and then you have people like Representative Luna on TV giving what they frame as the inside story.
As you'd expect, public reaction was all over the place. Our source says some people celebrated it as a promise kept. Others were super skeptical, calling it fake or just a political move to buy time. And then there was a third group that was actually really supportive of the new strategic direction this all seemed to be pointing towards.
And it's that third camp, the ones who supported the new strategy, that brings us to the really crucial question: what's next? The new plan seems to pivot to a key strategic location, the Strait of Hormuz, and it signals a huge shift in who's responsible for keeping it safe.
The plan itself, as it's laid out, is actually pretty simple. Step 1, the U.S. is no longer going to be the main police force in the strait. Step 2, other countries that depend on it, we're talking Japan, China, European nations, they're going to take the lead on security. And Step 3, the U.S. will help, sure, but only if they're asked to.
This quote from the source really captures the whole philosophy behind this move.
It's this idea of stepping back from being the world's police to focus on our own neighborhood. A very America First take on military strategy.
So when you boil it all down, the new doctrine is basically this. The countries that get the most economic benefit from a secure shipping lane should be the ones paying the cost and taking the responsibility to keep it secure. Simple as that.
Which brings us right back to where we started. Is this a declared victory that actually neutralizes a threat and changes the power dynamic over there? Or is it a really savvy strategic pivot, pushed by politics at home, that shifts a heavy burden onto other countries? The source material lays out the arguments for both sides, and the real answer, well, it probably has a little bit of both.